Welcome back to the Georgia Show. I'm here with Bill Quinn. And Bill, did you ever think you'd see the day when we finally get to the bottom of the Fulton County ballots? Are we getting close to that, the day of reckoning?
It may be. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to remind people of what so many here in Georgia have gone through for the last 5 years, trying to fight to get to this point, if indeed we're coming in on the target. So we will see. We're talking about that and a couple of other things that are happening today. Trump is over in the UK, and there's interesting things happening there. And we're also talking about some of the aftermath of the murder of Charlie Kirk, and now the machinations of many surrounding him. So it will be an interesting show nonetheless.
Definitely going to be interesting and a lot to cover. We need you to support us financially. Go to georgiarecord.com, top right corner, and there is a button for subscribe with no ads. You get access to all of our content across the entire CDM network, which is blossoming in content. We're really putting out. We've doubled our content across the network in the last month. And it's just really, we're getting a lot of good response, a lot of traffic coming in, and a lot of good feedback. So we love that. Keep up the feedback. Spread the links for this show. Tell people about the 2 shows we do per week, Sunday at 2 and Wednesday now at 7. And let's get the audience growing. The Georgia Show audience has been blossoming as well. We also need you to support our social media. Please support the Georgia Record on X and our CDM_press on X, as well as the CDM1 Rumble channel and YouTube. Please, we need to grow those numbers. Even if you're not a YouTube person, we want to grow the numbers to, fake it till you make it. So we got a lot to go through today, Bill. So what's coming up first?
Okay. So we're gonna entitle this show as follows: Is a day of reckoning at hand for our friends in Fulton County? And it has been a long time coming, and many challenges along the way. We're going to talk about what's happened, and I want to put some context around this so people understand where this is coming from, what drove it, or what is driving it, and who's involved and what may happen next. So on August 18th, just under a month ago, Trump issued a tweet, if you will, or an X post, and in it he said he would lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots and voting machines. And this was met, especially here in Georgia, with just an outstanding round of applause, virtual applause, from virtually everybody that's been involved in election integrity for going on now these 5 years. The mail-in ballots early on were seen to have come in their pattern of voting, the ratio of votes for Trump versus Biden going back into 2020 was a complete different ratio than early voting, early in-person voting, and in-person voting. It was as if there were 2 complete different populations. And we pointed that out at the time, and it really can't be that way. The same population in a given county often votes very much the same way, regardless of how they vote, the mechanism that they use to vote. But in this case, it was much different. And so right away, we knew that there was something amiss. And Trump apparently knew this as well, because he issued this communique. We won't read the entire thing, but basically in here, he says it's important to get rid of mail-in ballots and get rid of the voting machines. And you'll recall that just last month or a month and a half ago, Tulsi Gabbard came out and said that they had found evidence that indeed the machines could be hacked. And since then, we've learned about more details that are being found and are coming forward gradually as they find things like burn bags with various information in them and other things. So let me introduce these 2 people, one of which our audience should remember. So Edward Martin, he is the Deputy Attorney General, and he has been assigned to lead this initiative to look into mail-in ballots. In order to make a change, you would think that one of the key steps is to prove that indeed something was flawed with regard to mail-in ballots. Next to him is Christina Bobb. She's been on the show a number of times over the past, 4 years, I guess,
Yeah.
and has worked with just about everybody across election integrity. She attended the infamous Pitt meeting, the original meeting where True the Vote brought in influencers from around the country and briefed them on some of their initial findings. And so Christina Bobb was in attendance there and has stayed involved in various means ever since. She is now executive secretary of DHS. And so it will be interesting to see what her role becomes as we go through this process we're going to describe. So what's happened? Well, we spotted this because Rasmussen said that Martin had issued a letter to Fulton County, putting them on notice that they wanted to look at the Fulton ballots. Here's specifically what's happened. Edward R. Martin, the Associate Deputy Attorney General, has been charged with putting the work around showing that these mail-in ballots are something other than what they should be. The initial focus that he has taken is on, of all places, Fulton County. And indeed, there's 148,000 ballots still from 2020 that are still supposed to be under seal and resident at the county warehouse in Fulton County. A federal grand jury has now been impaneled to look into this matter. And many will recall that in the past, we've talked about the power of grand juries, either at the county level or in this case, the federal level. They surpass almost every other constitutional mechanism. They can cause just about any investigation and they can push on any action that they wish. It is also reported that some witnesses into this matter have already been notified and called. And Martin himself has notified Judge Robert C. McBurney, a name which many, many will remember, that the DOJ seeks access to these ballots going back to 2020. I would be willing to bet that many, having known that this, or now hearing that this letter is in play and that this initiative is underway, have nerves going through the roof for one reason or another, and we will see.
Either because the ballots aren't there or because they don't want people to see what's in the ballots.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Perhaps one of the two.
Yeah.
So let's take a walk down memory lane for a moment, if we can, and remember how this all came about. So back after the election in 2020, there were clearly lots of concerns. Many voiced concerns immediately following the election. You'll recall that Trump himself had a phone call with Raffensperger and a number of other people, a phone call which ended up being taped, it turns out. And we won't go through the list of people, but trust me, the folks that were on that call, we know who was on the call. So following all of that and following the initial concerns, in March of 2021, a suit had been brought to be able to review the Fulton ballots to see what information they disclosed based on how people had voted. And indeed, Judge Brian Amiro, who was brought into that case, he was actually brought in from another county, conditionally unsealed the Fulton ballots, but said that they could only be reviewed after acceptance of a specific written strict plan for secure handling. In other words, they were unsealed legally, but couldn't be looked at until he gave approval over a plan to make sure that they would be secure. That was in March. In May, 2-3 months later, Amiro signed an order authorizing supervised inspection by the plaintiff's experts. So at that point, he had agreed, yes, you can look at them and you can have your experts review these ballots. just days before the inspection was due to be done, Fulton County filed motions to dismiss the case and effectively blocked proceedings about to authorize or to continue with the inspection. That hung around for several months, and then in an amazing turnaround, in October of 2021, Amero dismissed the case for lack of standing, meaning in his judgment, he didn't believe that the plaintiffs in this case had any reason to have brought the case in the first place. That's the kind of judgment that's made up front, not after nearly a year of the case being in place.
Yeah, we had similar with Totenberg.
That's correct. And indeed, a very similar finding was found recently on a case that myself and a co-plaintiff have against Raffensperger, and that one is on appeal as well. So that's all in 2021. In 2022, the Georgia Supreme Court ruled that Georgians, as stakeholders in elections, can have standing to sue when officials fail to follow the law. So the standard there is if you can show that officials have failed to follow the letter of the law, then you have standing to file a case. In December of 2022, the Supreme Court vacated the earlier decision in Favorito versus Wan, I believe it's called, and sent the case back for reconsideration. It went first back to the Court of Appeals. And then in May of 2023, the Court of Appeals reassigned the case to the Fulton Superior Court. And we've heard the name before. Judge McBurney addressed other remaining issues during 2023 and 2024, still without getting to the point of having anybody look at the actual ballots. So further in 2024, May, Brian Kemp signed a law confirming the public has the right to inspect ballots. However, Fulton County continued to assert that the ballots in the case were still sealed because of pending litigation. And as of this moment, they have not yet been made available to the public. So this now goes from the end of 2020 through this portion of 2025. Nobody's been able to look at those 148,000 ballots. So what happens next? Well, we will see. Bear with me for just a moment. And we will keep up on this as things proceed. This should be very interesting. Now, keep in mind that grand jury proceedings are not open to the public, and their deliberations are not public. So there may be a number of steps that happen now which will not be in the public eye. For how long? We don't know. But the very fact that there is a grand jury, that this is being pushed, and that we have what looks like to me, my instinct is some of the right people are working on this, including President Trump. This should come as an incredibly welcome set of steps and update to those in Georgia who have struggled now for 5 years to try to get to the bottom of what happened, because everybody across this group of workers, the folks that have struggled so long to try to bring clarity to our elections, deserve to get to the end of that road and find out what their discoveries should have yielded up to now 4.5 years ago. So
it's interesting to me, Bill, because the way Trump, and I don't know who's doing this, if it's Trump himself, but he will find ways to get to something that may not be a frontal, straight on confrontation. He kind of like says, okay, I want to look at mail-in ballots. And oh yeah, there's 140,000 ballots in Fulton County we haven't seen in 5 years. So it's like a byproduct of a push over here, which I find fascinating.
It is. And that's why when people get caught up in, gosh, why did he do that? That doesn't make any sense. Well, maybe it's not supposed to make sense yet. Many people question, why did he focus on mail-in ballots? Why isn't he saying that the election was rigged? Well, he was, but he was saying it was rigged in a couple of ways, and they were going to go investigate those ways and try to change them. And so we end up at the target point. But as you say, we came in from sort of left field to get there.
Now I want to see the machines confronted, but we'll be patient because we're making progress.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. This should be unbelievably welcome news to many.
Very much so.
All right. Did you want to take a break yet, or shall we continue?
Yeah, let's take a break, pay some bills here, and hear from our sponsors. And stand by 1 second. We'll be right. Here we go.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, My Pillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order.
This is a special report. Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
So let me just reiterate, go to twc.health/CDM, use promo code CDM, spend some time on the website. A lot of good stuff there, from the weight loss, the parasite cleanse. They just launched a new product. I don't even remember what it is, but just a lot of good stuff there. Spend some time on the website, play around, and find out how they're re-engineering healthcare. All right, back to you, Bill.
All right. Well, we want to talk about the trip that Trump went on to the UK. We've wondered in past months, how much support was he going to get from some of these other leaders, especially when, for example, Zelensky comes here to the U.S., goes to the White House, gets chewed out, gets thrown out, essentially, almost, maybe actually, and ends up beating a path almost immediately to the UK and ends up getting support from the UK, apparently in money and help and other things. So it was interesting to see what may be going on with Trump in the UK. So let's look at several things. The video I'm going to show is him getting off the plane. You'll notice that they have military lined up to welcome him, but there's not a bunch of dignitaries the way that there normally would be when President Trump is getting off Air Force One. Let's watch this. So, he arrived in good form. They got him off the plane and got him to where he needed to go. And then once there, and once he was with Charles, things began to be actually quite welcoming. Take a look at this as he's brought through part of the day in a carriage along with the king. That's quite a thing. I understand that Pierce Morgan and a couple others had expressed just surprise about all the arrangements that had been made to welcome Trump and to make him feel welcome while there. Let's also look at, he reviews the, I believe it's called the Royal Guard, the guys in the big fluffy hats. And let's look at this. And he actually goes down the row first. Now, you recall that back when he was there and visited the Queen some years ago, there was lots of talk about the fact that he reviewed the guard, but he walked in front of the Queen. That's a little unusual, some say. Normally, the Queen or the King would be the one to lead such a review. But indeed, Trump again is out in front. Let's take a look. There was a bunch of chatter, so we've quieted down the background discussion, but so people can watch what actually happened. So as he's walking down here, he's next to the soldier that's leading this and having a conversation with him as they walk down the row. So in the coming 24, 48 hours, we'll hear more about the discussions and what things might have been decided during meetings while in the UK. So we'll be expectantly waiting and looking for that. So in the past...
Let me just ask a few things there. There's
Sure.
several issues with the UK. One is free speech. I would love to have been a fly on the wall and heard if Trump actually confronted them on free speech. The Ukraine war, of them trying to start the war. The UK took over command of the Ukrainian multinational force in Kiev this week. So they're on the ground officially now in Ukraine. And the UK is essentially collapsing as a country. The government's collapsing and they're on the verge of a civil war. Yet he gave lots of pageantry, and Trump was full of compliments to the UK, which is kind of Trumpian the way he does it. But I'd love to know what's going on in the background. So maybe some of that will be revealed in time.
Maybe shortly. Maybe some of it will take some time to come out. We don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So back here, you may have noticed that we've kind of stayed out of the fray, if you will, for the past few days regarding Charlie Kirk's murder and all the different machinations that have gone into that. There's still, even in the last hours, there's people pointing out inconsistencies in information, inconsistencies in witnesses and other things. So rather than get involved in that, we decided to get a look at the changes in organizations that may result from Charlie Kirk no longer being with us. One of those potentially would be, well, who is going to, if anybody is going to lead Turning Point Action and their organizations. They're quite large, lots of people involved, and very frankly, lots of money. And so it's interesting to watch what people are saying, both about Charlie, about others, and what they're doing in order to potentially position themselves or others in the days to come about who's going to be doing what. So let's start. There's a number of different moving parts. So we're going to start with this. Ben Shapiro of the Daily Caller arranged to contribute $1 million to Turning Point in order to help their efforts. And he talks about it on their show with others from Turning Point and others associated with Turning Point in this. Let's take a look. Whoop, bear with me. I got to pull up the actual video. That would help, wouldn't it?
We produce on the fly here. It's a live show. It's always sporty.
Yeah, I don't have a fly. I don't have a fly in front of me, but yes, here we go.
We trust you at TPUSA to do it. I mean, that's really the answer. We're willing to provide, and we are providing any level of material support, any level of support on the ground, boots on the ground, helping you to do what Charlie would have wanted to be done here. And I think that the reason that everybody trusted Charlie, and the reason we're all mourning Charlie, is because nobody did it better. You spelled out two of Charlie's goals. You said, he wanted to bring people back to Christ and bring people back to church and back to biblical values. And he wanted to keep the MAGA coalition together.
And expand it.
And the question is how you do that. And the answer is you focus on the first, and the second is a byproduct. Okay, the answer is that, as Matt says, you have to unite around something. And yeah, we can unite in the short term around the fact that there are a bunch of people who hate our guts and want to murder us, which of course is true. But long-term unity, big movement change, which is what Charlie was really trying to drive, and why he went to talk to people who disagree, is about building around those core values. And so the long-term vision, yeah, we'll have our petty squabbles, and yeah, some of those squabbles will be more than petty, but the long-term vision has to be built around those original biblical conservative values that Charlie stood for, things like the Bible, things like free markets, things like family, all those things are things Charlie stood for. You got to build the coalition around values, because we can't build it around the man, but we can build it around the values that he left behind and that he spent his entire life fighting for. And, we couldn't be, frankly, more honored to join you guys as much as we can in the fight.
Thank you for that, and thank you for donating the Daily Wire $1 million, breaking news on this show. Thank you guys for honoring Charlie so well today. God bless you.
Okay, so you just heard Ben Shapiro talk about Charlie's goals, Charlie's values and objectives. And one was to bring people to Christ. And another was to bring them to an understanding of how to apply that in a conservative manner on behalf of the country and so forth, and on behalf of their followers. So there have been a couple of quotes from Shapiro that suggested to some that his intention was to step in and try to become the leader of Turning Point action. He made certain comments about, well, we're going to pick up the mic where Charlie left it and continue right on. Well, that's a we're going to do that, which makes it sound like he's part of the we're. That has some people concerned, and it goes back to exactly what he said. What were Charlie's values, goals, and objectives? One was few will disagree that Charlie was a very devout Christian and espoused that for many while still maintaining that others had the right to have their own beliefs, yet was a very solid Christian and led TP Action that way. Shapiro is on record saying some things that don't appear to be necessarily consistent with that. Some of that came out in his conversation with Joe Rogan. Let's listen to that.
From a Jewish point of view, where we don't believe in the divinity of Christ, I think that there you can make an argument that the Gospels, which were written,
he was just a prophet, and
significant. No, we don't even believe he was a prophet.
What do you think he was? What do you guys think?
What do I think he was historically? I think he was a Jew who tried to lead a revolt against the Romans and got killed for his trouble, just like a lot of other Jews at that time who were crucified for trying to lead revolts against the Roman and got killed for their trouble.
So he became legend in story, and it became a bigger and bigger deal as time went on.
Yeah, he had a group of followers, and then that gradually grew, and then
do you think he was resurrected?
No, that's not Jewish belief.
Okay, I just want to check.
Yeah, no, we're not into
You're not
we're not
into
into miracle
zombies?
stories. No, that's
No?
no.
You don't have any miracles?
No,
in your-
not by Jesus. Right?
No?
They're ones
But
in
the
the Old
God
Testament.
ones?
Like I can't join a church. I assume I don't believe the things that people in the church believe.
You probably could if you donate. You got to give the right amount of money.
Well, I don't believe in the Jesus, so there's that. There's
The
that
Jesus?
part. Yeah, that's not my thing, right? I mean, so that's
So going back to the way that Charlie approached all of this and led Turning Point, you can see why some would raise concerns, I guess I'll call them, about whether Shapiro is appropriate to lead the organization. We don't know. We don't have an opinion, but we are listening to those that have and are reporting certain concerns. Is this consistent with where Turning Point's coming from?
You know, it's actually a revision of history there. It wasn't Jesus who was leading a revolt against the Roman Empire. He was leading a revolt against the Jewish Sanhedrin. And the Jewish people were the ones that eventually revolted against the Roman Empire. So, I mean, there's a quote, you know, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. So I find that interesting.
It is interesting. We're going to hear more about these concerns in just a minute. So Ben Shapiro and many others seem to be very supportive of Charlie. Yet there's been other voices, other writings that do not appear to be nearly as supportive. I saw this today. I'm going to pull it up. It's a post from MJ Truth Ultra, and it quotes the Times of Israel in saying some pretty harsh things, some damning things about Charlie Kirk. And so we often tell our listeners and viewers, you know, don't believe anything you see. Go check it. Go see what you can find if you fact check things. And so I did. And so I actually went, bear with me for a second here. I went to the Times of Israel and I found the article. And in the article, you can see the author, I believe, is listed here. In the article, here's one of the key quotes. The list goes on, but the point is clear. Charlie Kirk was an extremist, racist, misogynist, fascist. Undeniably, Kirk was an evil man who dedicated his life spreading hate. That seemed like a remarkable quote, given everything else that we hear from so many other sectors regarding Charlie Kirk and his work within Turning Point. How does that play out with others that we've come to listen to regularly, people like Tucker Carlson? Well, let's hear what Tucker Carlson had to say about some things that he had heard from Charlie Kirk prior to the devastating events of last week.
Shocked and sickened by the reaction of the ghoulish and really repulsive reaction of the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, to Charlie's death. Basically made it all about him and all about his country, immediately trying to take the energy, the sadness, the grief that people felt over Charlie's murder and redirect it towards support for whatever project he's involved in. And by the way, Benjamin Netanyahu is not the same as the nation of Israel at all. Bibi is despised by many people in Israel, and if you know people who live there, you know that that's true. There are huge divisions within the Israeli government. I mean, there are certain parts of the intel world in Israel that do not support some things that Benjamin Netanyahu has done recently. So it's not the same as attacking Israel, attacking Bibi, but I don't think I've ever seen anything lower than his attempt to hijack Charlie's memory and use it for his own political ends, particularly because what he said was completely untrue. Charlie didn't hate Jews. He loved Jews. He had tons of friends who were Jews. He loved the state of Israel. He loved going there. He did not like Bibi Netanyahu, and he said that to me many times, and he said it to people around him many times. He felt that Bibi Netanyahu was a very destructive force. He was appalled by what was happening in Gaza. He was, above all, resentful that he believed Netanyahu was using the United States to prosecute his wars for the benefit of his country, and that it was shameful and embarrassing and bad for the United States, and he resented it. Didn't hate Netanyahu. He wasn't out there with a placard saying that, but he certainly expressed that to me and a lot of other people. And there's no question that Bibi's defenders on the internet will call me a liar or a kook But that's a fact. And enough text messages exist that I think it can probably be verified in pretty short order. Not that it needs to be, because that is true.
Okay. So again, I want to make it clear, we are not making judgment here. This is way too early for us to be able to discern all the different moving parts and people's opinions underlying all of this. But I believe that it's logical and reasonable to let people see what is being said by others so that they can continue their own research and their own learning to be able to draw opinions on their own about all of this. It is very interesting that a list of those who will attend Charlie Kirk's funeral and speak was brought out. And here it is. And I know it's small perhaps on the screen, but if you notice, it's got Trump and the vice president and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK, and of course, Kirk's wife, Erica. But look down at the bottom of the list, Tucker Carlson. And this was based on the judgment, I'm assuming, of folks up to and including the president. So this should be very interesting, the comments that come out from all of this, in not just in the funeral, but in the days to come. So we recommend people keep their eye on this and pay attention. Okay. Do we want another break, or shall we continue?
Well, let me just say a few things. I'll do it real quick here. We talked about the wellness company. Please visit them, twc.health/CDM. But this is a silver round, and you can buy these with Advisor Metals. If you go to cdmmetals.com, you can fill out the form and they will contact you. And I promise you, you'll have a great experience. We've had really great feedback by the team there. You can get these in for cash accounts just to have on hand to barter in case the grid goes down, which is a lot of worry about that. Or you can buy them inside your IRA and protect your wealth from a asset class that's been a store of value for thousands of years and is doing extremely well right now. So check out Advisor Metals, and I promise you'll have a good experience with the team. So back to you, Bill.
Okay. So let's go back to Georgia for just a couple of minutes, and let's talk about this. And this talks about a meeting going on back in Israel that includes U.S. legislators from all 50 states. Apparently, according to this report and others, there's 250 American legislators that were invited and are attending in Israel at this moment. We know we have at least 3 from here in Georgia and perhaps more. Steve Gooch is there, Brent Cox, and Mr. McDonald, one of the other representatives, and a floor leader for Kemp are attending this meeting in Israel. It has an interesting name. It's called 50 States, One Israel. And here's a picture of the folks that are in attendance. I didn't take time to count them, but looks like 250 to me. And here's the logo, if you will, for the event. 50 States, One Israel. Folks are asking questions about this only because didn't Israel just get through attacking Qatar last week or the week before? Didn't Qatar give Trump and the U.S. a plane recently? Have we considered them an enemy? And so it is fostering questions about what is this delegation about? What are they doing there and why? And how does it relate to the rest of the movement, the actions going on across the Middle East? Seems like those are all valid questions, and we hope to learn more in the coming days as people return and perhaps report their doings in these meetings in Israel. So 50 states, one Israel. We will see what it's all about.
Interesting.
Okay. I know that you had a very valuable conversation with a wonderful friend of CDM and a great researcher and expert on Smurfing money movement and its implications for many across government. And so why don't you talk to us about your conversation with Chris Gleason?
Yeah, so I we reported from Peter Bernegger that Chris and Peter had found that Speaker Mike Johnson had criminally laundered $94 million into his campaigns. And as you know, Chris has done the back end work on this with the AI to find all this. And so I interviewed Chris and talked to him about it. This is another in a long list of high profile politicians like Tom Cotton, like Brian Kemp, and others in the Republican sphere that have been found to be using this smurfing, if you will, which is using someone else's identity in very large amounts, or excuse me, numbers of transactions with small amounts over a time. And this is not being talked about anywhere as far as we can tell. I told Chris, there's the on Wall Street, they have the Big Mac indicator by like how much a Big Mac costs to find out what's going on in the economy and what's real. Well, we're going to have the Chris Gleason indicator. Like, who in Conservative Inc. has Chris Gleason on the show? That's a real good indicator as to whether or not they're telling the truth or not. So I think it's us. I think Emerald's had him on Epoch Times, but that's about it. So here we go with the interview with Chris. I think you'll enjoy it. Bringing in Chris Gleason. Chris, I got a comment on my X channel on this story. I haven't seen this anywhere else.
Shocking.
I wonder why.
Shocking.
Shocking. Yeah. Surprise, surprise, surprise. So what's going on? 94 million. Is that the biggest we've seen? Or
no, it actually isn't, surprisingly. What's sad is that there's bigger, and we're working on exposing the bigger. This is going to be earth-shattering as all of this comes out, because what it does is it reinforces the whole idea that we really have a purple party in control. Yeah. And that everybody's dirty, everybody's clean. We have effectively traced this back to its initial origins on all of the smurfing.
Wow.
And the Republicans are usually late to the game with technology, and but once they get it, and then they blitz scale.
So let me ask you, have you separated, is it this through WinRed? I mean, where is this from?
So it actually comes from two areas. One from WinRed, and the big shocker on this is it comes from a organization that was created by a Democrat, progressive,
wow, by
the name of Jonathan Zucker, who was the former CEO of Act Blue.
Is he related to Zucker at CNN? I wonder.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Wouldn't surprise me in the least bit, frankly.
Yeah.
But so the other interesting thing about Zucker is that he worked for the DNC for quite a while as
talk about a uniparty.
Oh, yeah. So, after he left Act Blue, he went and started Democracy Engine, and he did it as a nonpartisan organization. Apparently, there was probably a secret backdoor meeting, and so what we have seen is that a lot of the uniparty folks who have been standing in the way of the America First agenda, they're on the list. Wow. And the people who are all about doing sound bites and tersely worded letters.
We're going to hold every one of you accountable. We'll bring you to the full force of the law, or whatever.
Yeah.
Just like after the Charlie Kirk stuff, I laughed.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, everybody's dirty, so everybody's clean. But you have to understand, how all of this comes into play, and who all the players are, and the roles that they've played, and where they've been, and my favorite thing is follow the money, because the money and the data don't lie. Politicians lie, lawyers lie, the media lies, but the data and the money flows, they don't lie. So
Well, you know, I was in Alaska for 3 years back in the late 80s and doing a lot of fishing. And there's a saying there, when you get a salmon on the hook, it's like fish on. Dude, you got to fish on here, man.
yeah, yeah. So one of the interesting things that we have been working on is our AI and the models that our custom models that we've created. And so we're doing some really interesting stuff right now as we're formulating these FEC complaints. We are ingesting all of the data from the FEC on their enforcement actions. And what we're seeing is some staggering patterns of official misconduct, willful and deliberate indifference, and or straight out participation in this massive RICO money laundering enterprise.
Do you think it's all just at the end of the day about money? I mean,
of course. It's about money. It's about power. But I mean, any money, any RICO operate. I mean, think about it like this, right? The best ROI of any investment on the planet, right? It's the purchase of a politician. Period. Bar none.
That much.
That's, I mean, and you're looking at an ROI in the thousands or tens of thousands when you buy a politician. And that's essentially what you have here. You have politicians bought using stolen identities of elderly people, financial structuring, obfuscation. I mean, it's everybody's dirty, everybody's clean, and everybody's making money, right? Because what you'll have is money gets funneled into these campaigns. It's then flowed out to various LLCs where people work as quote unquote consultants. And, I mean, and a lot of it is taxpayer money. Things flow in. I mean, you've got foreign money with this. So, everybody's focusing in on Act Blue right now, right? Well, you also have this democracy engine, again, that's funneling money into both sides. And then you've got this other one that has moved on to called the Action Network, which is explicitly linked to the labor unions and the Democrat Party and George Soros and, an amalgamated bank. And if you go to the Action Network, their website, and you click on campaigns, political campaigns, and the processing of funds, they advertise right on their website that they take foreign donations. Wow. They can accept foreign donations for frictionless, I think it was like frictionless or reduced complexity and accepting the money. And, I mean, it's absolutely, it's a per se admission of criminal intent and guilt of what they're doing.
Wow. So there was talk, smoke in Congress about, investigating Act Blue. Did anything ever happen on that?
Well, my understanding is that there's stuff that is ongoing with that. I'm concerned, however, that Act Blue is going to be the fall guy for all of this.
Yes.
Okay.
We got you.
And,
yeah.
And
don't look over here.
And don't look over here. Don't look at this other money laundering that's going on here.
We just changed the name and reconstituted.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's dangerous too. I mean, I am a registered Republican. I've been a Republican since the day I registered to vote way back when I turned 18. I voted in all the elections. I am, Constitution first, God first, then Constitution. It's about obeying the Constitution. It's about obeying God. And so Republicans came late to the party. But now they're in on it full bore. And I'd hate to see what's happening here in Florida happen nationwide, because we have a lot of bad actors here in Florida that call themselves Republicans, and we can't give them all the power and all the keys to the kingdom here, because
I would call them cartel members in
the election corruption cartel.
With all the real estate money laundering going on in Florida, I think it's another cartel. Card carrying members are there too. A lot of the attorneys,
I mean, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
And Georgia's really bad too. That we just know because we
inextricably linked. I mean, in Georgia, we saw it there. I mean, we've been on top of the money flows into Kemp, into Willis, and I'm going to tell you the stuff that's going on right now in the Ossoff campaign, the stuff that's going on right now into Warnock's campaign. It's bad. It's real bad. Yeah. And all of it, a lot of it is tied to Stacey Abrams, Old Pack, Fair Fight, its origins, and Dara Lindenbaum, who we've discussed on your show a multitude of times. Her activities and her appointment by Biden to help conceal the election corruption and money laundering in Georgia.
Yeah. Wow. So you've developed AI to find a lot of this stuff. Is that so?
Well, we actually found. So we've developed AI to replicate our own processes and our methods, and now we're able to scale it at a level that was previously impossible.
Wow.
And so that's what we're doing right now. It just makes us more efficient. I mean, people can say, "Oh, AI is a magical and AI this and AI that," but at the end of the day, it's our own methods, it's our own algorithms that we use to catch stuff and scale stuff.
So, in business, I think it's called the Big Mac indicator that they use as kind of like an indicator of pricing or whatever. I think we should have the Chris Gleason indicator. So the indicator for Conservative Inc. is which shows have asked you to come on, Chris? Because if you've got all this AI that's finding all this criminal activity, you're getting phone calls, right?
I'm not. Oddly,
I know Emerald had you on, right?
Emerald has back in the day, the Epoch Times.
Okay.
They interviewed me a few times. My guy there is gone. I think that they were scared off because
you're a little bit too edgy for them, I think.
Yeah, I was, and the DOJ went after them for prepaid credit card use. After we had exposed it there.
Interesting.
So that was the Biden DOJ. So.
So you haven't gotten a call from any of the big conservative organizations to come on and talk about this?
No, and I've reached out to a lot of them. Coincident. I just don't, I mean, it's not like they weren't copied on, people from their organizations weren't copied on emails or anything.
Yeah. What about DOJ, FBI? Any calls?
I did get a call from DOJ a couple weeks ago related to the election corruption here in Florida.
Wow.
So I got them some information. We'll see where and how that goes. As far as the FEC goes, maybe a little bit of resistance has been removed there. But we are seeing that they're still playing data games at the FEC, and based on our most recent review of all the enforcement decisions, I believe that the Office of Inspector General there probably needs to get in touch with me, and or I can just when we're finished this project here, we can send a nice big complaint to them about what we've found and what we know has been going on at the FEC. So, because I'm going to tell you right now, what we've done is kind of unique to a certain degree. But what we do know is that there's a lot of fraud algorithms. I mean, there are companies that have been doing this for a long time. You know, there's a company that has massive contracts with the United States government, and this is their jam, right? This is what they did. They developed this stuff, you know, years ago. And I just have to wonder why they never caught this.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, surely the fraud detection algorithms in place at Bank of America and Chase and Citi and Wells Fargo and Treasury and Palantir, they should have caught all this.
Well, you know, we got booted off PayPal again last week. We tried it. They said, and they're keeping our money for 2 years, which is interesting. But
well, Pierre Omidyar, he does not like this. And Pierre Omidyar, I mean, who owns? Wait a minute, Pierre Omidyar. He was the founder of eBay. Who owns eBay? Pierre Omidyar. Who owns PayPal? Pierre Omidyar. Where did the PayPal mafia get their seed capital from? Pierre Omidyar.
Yeah. Well, also, you know, the banks, I mean, if we use our Zelle like more than once a day, they block it. You got to go through all these hoops to.
Oh, I'm very familiar with our good friend Zelle. And, you know, Zelle proved my point during my campaign, right? Mm-hmm. They shut me off. The first day I rolled it out, I did a push email to my email list, and we had 3 or 4 transactions, and then they shut it down immediately. Yeah. And it took me all day going to various financial institutions in person to find out what was going on.
Wow. It's amazing. You know, I don't even have any faith there. I would like file a complaint, but what's the point, right? I mean, nobody's going to do anything about it. But anyway, I know that's your MO. You've exhausted all the remedies and
in the process.
Yeah. Where's your cases going, by the way?
So the Florida Supreme Court struck a filing that I had done. It was an 80-page petition for a writ of prohibition under all writs. They said it was too long and it violated the court rules, so I had to revise it down. And I have to get that filed today or tomorrow. But it's going to happen. We'll see what they do. I think we've painted them into a pretty nice, tight little corner, and they're going to have to. I mean, they're going to have to admit either they're using county funds to illegally defend illegal actions, and that the judges are all because of all of the judges being materially connected as witnesses, victims, and beneficiaries. I get a new trial because everything is void because it's tainted. Wow. So that's the operative hope. We'll see if the Florida Supreme Court is going to do the right thing. I have very little faith in the judiciary at this point. I think we're seeing a full-on judicial insurrection nationwide.
Yes. Well, I know for a fact you're part of the No Sleep Club, just like we are. So how can people help you? Because you're like I don't know how you keep going. You drop legal complaints, which take a lot of time to draft. You're like finding all this research. It's amazing. How can people help?
So if you go to my Substack, that would be very helpful, and subscribe there. If you go to immutabletruthelections.substack.com, immutabletruthelections.substack.com, become a subscriber. It'll really help. It'll actually help a lot. So, because we have a lot more filings to be making here, and because the case is going to end up going federal for a multitude of reasons.
Wow. Amazing. Chris, we'll have you back, I'm sure. You're my go-to guy when something happens. I'm like, okay, I got to bug Chris Gleason at 2 a.m. again. But he's awake. It's all good. All right, Chris. Take care, my friend.
All righty. Talk to you.
All right, Bill. That's all.
That was a great interview. Great interview. So I wanted to share one ancillary piece of information. People heard that they have created tools that allow them to interrogate FEC data so they can see this smurfing both as it's going on and as it accumulates. I wanted to make sure people knew how to get that. If you will go to X and look up Peter Berniger, at Peter Berniger, within his posts, you will find a listing that illustrates how you can get a report on one of your own federal officials. And you can look up the committees that are associated with them. And what you'll get looks like, let's see. Oh, could you pull off the other stream?
Yeah, I will. There you go.
There you go. Okay, thanks. There you go. What you get looks like this, and it will actually give you a summary of the smurfing dollars that are associated with the individual or committees that for the individual that you're looking up. You'll find it very, very interesting. So again, just go to at Peter Berniger, BERNEGGER on X. Scroll down his post and you will find how to access this tool for yourself. You can type in the name of the representative or senator or whoever you want to have reviewed. And within seconds, you'll get a report that shows what's going on. And in many cases, you won't be happy.
Yeah, this is a uniparty thing. It's across the board.
It is. It is. All right. Back to you.
Well, I think that's it. We'll be back on the Skiff 10 to noon, Monday through Friday Eastern, and back on the Georgia show at 2 o'clock on Sunday. If you're in Georgia, the Georgia Record is putting out a lot of content. We've got a lot of new writers, so please check that out. And subscribe to us or follow us on our socials, on X primarily. And thank you for your support. That's all I got.
We'll see you next time.